Okay, you guys, welcome back to my channel. I honestly had zero plans to do another video about a family vlogger since I just did two back to back. But I got so many requests for this couple on my last video in the comment section that I thought, you know what, why not do another video about family channels? It's obviously a conversation that still needs to be had. But full transparency, I knew pretty much nothing about this family before doing this video, so it took me a long time. I didn't really know why so many people would want me to cover them, but because I got so many requests, I figured there had to be a reason, and that's an understatement. But before we get into all of that, make sure you are subscribed to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, and let's just dive right into this backstory. If you know, you know. So Kaylee and Taylor Dudley, better known online as Kay and Tay, have built a massive social media following. They're based in Texas now, but their story actually starts back in 2014 in Oklahoma, where Tay was stationed at a military base and the two met there. They hit it off, and by 2016 they were married. And at that time, Kay already had one child from a previous relationship, but we will get into that part later. But back then, Kay and Tay were not social media figures. Nobody knew who they were online. Their TikTok account didn't actually really start or take off until January of 2022. And this was right around the time that they moved to Texas, and there's a whole backstory there. But this is when everything started to really change for them, to really take off. Their whole entire lives changed around January of 2022 because of TikTok. And I know, if you are familiar with Kay and Tay, you're probably thinking, wait a second, you skipped a lot of stuff, and you are right. But don't worry, we're going to be getting into all of that soon. I kind of just wanted to set the stage for anybody who was like me, who has no idea who Kay and Tay are and why we're talking about them. So like I said, Kay and Tay started gaining traction on TikTok in 2022 after they began posting videos together. Most of it was couple style content. It was lighthearted, trendy, that kind of thing. You know, those sort of videos tend to do really well on TikTok.
I'm so excited. Give me the card. I want to go first. Really? First thing I notice, you've got a bed for tonight, because you made me drive that last hour. I'm paying for a hotel room, not a sauna. We're gonna go to 50. Aww. Got a little blanket in here. That's so nice of them. We got two little outlets. I love it. Look. A little spit on there or something, but whatever. I'm dying. Can you please go back down to the office and get me a water? Thank you. You got the water? Thank you. I went ahead and made a little homie in here.
Personally, I don't really understand the appeal of those really staged, cringy videos, but they do pretty well on TikTok, so to each their own, I guess. But where things really, and I mean really took off for them was when Kay announced she was pregnant. From that point on, their entire TikTok presence shifted. Everything became about pregnancy. And something that I feel like you might not know if you didn't know who Kay and Tay are, if you know, even back then when they first started gaining traction, but it's that this was not Kay's first pregnancy. It was actually her second pregnancy. So before Kay and Tay were ever even a thing, Kay was married to somebody else. This was somebody that she met back in high school. They got married when she was 18, and not long after that, they had their first child together, who I will refer to as K1. According to Kay, that marriage didn't last long. They split up when she was just 19. Kay has actually opened up about that relationship, most notably on the Unplanned podcast.
Got married at 18. I got pregnant and had my first daughter at 19. The marriage was not good. It was not compatible. We fought a lot, and when I say fight, I mean fight. The red flags that I should have seen were control. I wasn't allowed to have friends at all. Like, even though I wanted them and I wanted to go, we lived in my hometown, and so I went to high school there, knew all these people, and I kind of like slowly was cut off from everybody. He didn't want me to go to college in my hometown. It was a community college because I might see boys that I went to school with. I didn't have access to our money. You know, it's just a lot of control, and I don't know, obviously I think it stemmed from insecurities and him feeling like he would lose me, I guess. I tried to understand his thought process on why he was like that, but you can't control your partner. You can't put restraints on their money, like not even having access to the cards so you can go grocery shopping. They're going out to eat, and if I did go out to eat, I would have to text him the whole time to make sure he knew I was not doing something. It's like an insecurity
kind of thing. Or...
Whoa, really? If I was going to hang out with somebody, I had to send pictures. I mean, it was like
that was an actual requirement. Like, if you hang out with a friend, you need to send a picture.
And if I didn't, he'd find me and be outside, and he'd tell me to come outside because he found me at their house.
And honestly, I have to say, given that her ex is the father of her child, a child that is still a minor, by the way, and who apparently chooses to spend the majority of her time with her father, it's probably not the best thing to be publicly airing out that kind of stuff to millions of people about the father of your first child, but that's exactly what Kay did. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about that first marriage and what really happened behind the scenes with it. I'm not going to go too deep into all of that because the main focus of this video is how both Kay and Tay built their wealth on the backs of their children. But since Kay herself brought up her ex in such a public way, I do think it's fair to mention that there was also a lot of allegations against her around this time as well. And from what I'm gathering, it's not even her ex-husband who disclosed all of these allegations. Again, I want to stress that this is all alleged, but according to various accounts, while her then husband was deployed in the military, Kay was reportedly spending time with other people, other men on the base. If you catch my drift, on the military base, some even claim that she became pregnant with someone else's child and then asked her husband to help her take care of it, which allegedly he refused to do. But apparently she did find someone to help her take care of that pregnancy because it never came to term. So the question, of course, is, did that marriage end because they were, just young and incompatible, or because she was caught cheating? We don't know for sure, but either way, that chapter of Kay's life is definitely surrounded by a lot of questions that still get brought up today. And coincidentally enough, it ended pretty much the exact same way that Kay's marriage ended. His wife cheated on him while he was deployed and even became pregnant with someone else's baby. So it's kind of hard not to notice the irony here that Tay, whose own marriage ended in infidelity, chose to build a life with someone whose marriage allegedly ended in infidelity as well, but on Kay's part, allegedly. When I went back through Kay's old Instagram posts, and I mean way back to the very beginning, her feed looked completely different. She would share photos of her first child all the time. There were pictures of the two of them together and even some with Tay after he came into their lives. On the surface, it looked like a happy, normal family, nothing like the influencer lifestyle we see today. But looking closer and maybe just with some of this hindsight that we have, something about this period of time feels off. Because before Tay, to me at least through these pictures, Kay seemed like a very involved, hands-on mother. And maybe she didn't make the best choices as a wife in this period of her life, but at least through the pictures, like I said, it didn't seem to affect how she was as a mother. Like I said, nearly every photo included K1, and even early on when Tay entered the picture, she still shared plenty of moments with both of them. It all looked picture perfect. At least that's what Instagram made it seem like. But here is where things start to shift. Apparently, Kay had promised her daughter around the time that her and Tay were going to be getting married that she could be the flower girl at their wedding. And I guess that K1 was really excited about this, about the idea of being her mom's flower girl. But then, out of the blue, Kay and Tay decided to have a small wedding on a weekend that K1 was not supposed to be with Kay. And apparently this wasn't a matter of, her father stopping her from going. It was just that Kay and Tay didn't invite her. Apparently he would have been fine just to send her, but that wasn't the case. Why did they pick a weekend that they didn't have her? I don't know. It's very bizarre. It's very strange. It's not so picture perfect like they would want you to think. Because not only was Kay's daughter not the flower girl at her wedding like she had promised her, but she just wasn't there at all. I mean, Kay has talked about how, during this period of her life when Tay entered the picture, he and her daughter became like best friends. So why would they not want that little girl at the wedding? It just makes no sense. It feels wrong, and unfortunately it doesn't stop there, because around 2016 Kay and Tay were living in Oklahoma, the same place where K1's entire life was rooted. Her dad, her friends, her extended family, everyone she knew was there. And on the surface, things seemed fine. If you were looking at pictures during this time, things seemed fine. But There was actually a bit of a nasty custody battle going on behind the scenes. Initially, Kay wanted full custody, but the judge granted joint custody for her and the father of her child. But something changed because the judge later designated K1's father as the primary caretaker, giving Kay standard visitation, which, let's be honest, that usually means something happened. Because in the US at least, it's incredibly uncommon for a judge to grant primary custody to the father, unless there's a very clear reason why. This all happened in the spring of 2016. Then, just a couple months later in May, Kay asked the court for permission to relocate K1 with her to Trafford, Alabama, because Tay had family there and he wanted to move there. So essentially, Kay was trying to uproot her daughter's entire life to go follow Tay, which was 11 hours away from where her daughter was living her entire life up until that point. I feel like you don't do that to your child unless if you absolutely have to, and that was not the case in this situation whatsoever. But K1's dad fought back. He told the judge that he had been the primary caretaker since they split back in 2014, and that there was absolutely no reason to disrupt his daughter's life or Kay and Tay's appearingly whim of a move. And in the end, the judge agreed, which solid move on the judge, I do have to say. You don't just uproot a kid from their everything they ever knew to go 11 hours away from their dad, away from their grandparents, from their friends. Doesn't make sense. And I don't know about you, but are you moving 11 hours away from your basically toddler just for fun, just to start a new life?
Absolutely not.
Any normal person, I think, would say over my dead body, but not Kay. She basically said, peace out, I'm gone. And now she only sees her daughter basically like 4 times a month. It's kind of wild. And we can get more into that in a little bit because there's definitely more to that story. But let's circle back to TikTok when Kay and Tay had their first child together, who we can refer to as E. And as it often happens with influencer families, E quickly became the centerpiece of their content. And you might be wondering why Kay's older child, K1, wasn't featured front and center too. Kind of like, another version of the LeBrant family. Well, that's because K1's dad doesn't want her in social media content. And from what's been said, K1 herself doesn't want to be in the content either. Again, she's not a toddler anymore. She's older. She does not want to be in the content at all. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. But again, like I said, after E was born, she essentially became the face of Kay and Tay's brand. And that whole shift really accelerated the growth of their social media platforms. And sure, if you're okay with parents who monetize their kids and stage every video for views, then yeah, you might think their content was cute. And while they were busy building their social media brand around happy and healthy relationships, someone uncovered something from their past that didn't quite fit that image. A January 2019 mugshot of Tay for alleged DV. According to reports, Tay allegedly threw Kay onto their bed and held her down while she begged him not to. So yeah, after that came out, it was massive. It was very, very massive. Even though it had happened years ago, people started to express genuine concern for Kay and the baby. And honestly, who could blame them with those type of charges? When your entire brand centers around being the picture of a perfect relationship, but there's a history of DV behind that picture perfect relationship, it's understandable that people are going to ask questions. So in true influencer fashion, Kay and Tay decided to address the situation by going on a podcast and gaslighting their audience into thinking that they were all just making a big deal out of nothing. Because, a mugshot attached to a DV charge is super normal, right? But of course, they didn't just go onto any podcast. They went on our favorite one, hosted by aspiring pop star Matt Howard and his visibly over it wife, Abby.
Are we lying to people because we didn't tell them? No. There was no reason to tell anybody that because it was a medical situation that, frankly, wasn't really anyone's business.
So yeah, they basically tried to brush the whole thing off like it wasn't a big deal, as if everyone else was just overreacting to the situation. I'm sure they thought going on the podcast was going to help clear up their image, clear up any rumors, and that they would be able to just move on as if nothing had ever happened, but that's not what happened. Ever since that interview, and especially after the mugshot, people have not let it go. I mean, if anything, it kind of made viewers comb through all their content even more closely, analyzing every little detail and interaction between Kay and Tay. A lot of people think that Tay comes off as very controlling and that Kay, it's very confusing, Tay, Kay, that the husband comes off as very controlling and the wife, Kay, seems afraid of him. And I've seen a lot of genuine concern online for Kay's well-being, which I find really interesting because to Kay and Tay, I'm sure all of that online conversation probably feels like hate, when in reality, that's not the full picture. Sure, there's plenty of negativity on there, about looks and this and that, but there's also a lot of people who seem to genuinely care, at least to some extent. And something that I cannot ignore, I saw it coming up time and time again when researching them, is a relationship dynamic pattern that people seem to notice a lot on their channel. And that is that Tay seems to infantilize Kay.
What is it? What's wrong?
Amy's gonna die.
What do you mean?
She's gonna die. One day.
They live like 15 years. You haven't even made it halfway.
We only have 10 years left. She doesn't even know how short her life is.
Sweetie, you've had such good times. Your phone is filled with pictures of Yami.
Get me another cat.
You want another cat? Or you'll just cry about that one.
She needs a companion.
She's happy by herself.
But she needs a friend.
Don't cry.
I just want a little gravy.
You want a gravy? What is that?
That's gonna be their name.
You've already picked out a name for a cat you don't own? Why are you doing that?
Because I want her to have a friend.
Sweetie.
And it's very strange. It's very uncomfortable because are they doing this for views? Is it rage bait? Is it some weird dynamic they have going on together? I don't know. I highly doubt they're actually talking like that off camera, but who knows? And either way, it doesn't really seem to be helping the ongoing perception that Tay is controlling and that there seems to be an unhealthy power dynamic between Kay and Tay. I don't know. It's bizarre to me. It's not something that I would necessarily make a whole video about if they were just an influencer couple. But since they also monetize their kids, of course I'm going to add it in. It's weird. But speaking of monetizing their kids, let's get into that because it's really the main reason I'm even talking about them. Their children, the ones they're allowed to share online, are everywhere, all across their social media platforms. And there are obviously so many issues with that we talk about on my channel all the time. But one of the ones I want to focus on in this video is the way that audiences form parasocial relationships with these families and with these kids specifically. We see this in a lot of family channels, nearly all of them actually, and it's something that these parents rarely want to acknowledge because it's dark, it's uncomfortable to think about. For example, a post on the K and Tay Reddit recently shared a TikTok account that tried to predict what their daughter might look like in 20 years. Hundreds of people commented on it and thousands saved the video. And it's like, why are we doing this? Why are people trying to age progress images of children that are not even their own and speculate on what these kids are going to look like when they're adults? It's incredibly strange and invasive. And as a parent, would you really want someone doing that with images of your children? Probably not. I certainly would not. And of course, the big question that, this comes up a lot is who's to say that these kids are going to want this content out there when they're adults 20 years later? Speaking of 20 years, we already know that Kay's oldest daughter, K1, wants nothing to do with her parents' social media accounts. And good for her. Good for her for speaking up. And luckily for her, she has a dad who's willing to advocate for her. Kind of like Abby Fickley, her daughter has a dad, Bobby, who is willing to advocate for M so that she is no longer in the content. Good for you, Bobby. Good for these dads. Or maybe sometimes it's a mom who's stepping up. I feel like I've seen more dads, but this is also a newer thing that we're seeing where a parent is realizing, hey, I have a voice. This is my kid too. I can do something. I can say something. So good for these parents and good for K1's dad for doing this. Because I have a strong suspicion that if he wasn't stepping up, if he wasn't advocating for her daughter, she would be in the video whether she wanted to be or not. And we've seen examples of that dynamic actually playing out with K and Tay. Because I guess that they planned a trip, I think it was to Disney, and they bought a ticket for K1 and she was excited to go. But then last minute, she kind of backed out and was like, hey, I don't want to go because I don't want to be a part of the content. I don't want to film content, which is very fair. Who wants to go on vacation and work? And that's exactly what these kids do on these family vlogger channels who, the parents film them on vacations. We're having so much fun. It's work. They are doing work because they're not just making memories with their family, they are performing for an audience. But anyway, back to Kay and Tay, instead of respecting K1's boundaries, Kay and Tay apparently allegedly took it personally. They guilt tripped her and basically said, fine, you don't have to go, but you're going to pay us every single cent back for that ticket that we bought for you, as if they need the money. But, nothing says healthy relationships like they love to preach, quite like gaslighting your child because she doesn't want to be filmed for millions of strangers online. And unfortunately, this isn't unique to them. We've heard countless stories of family vloggers guilt tripping their kids when they get older and no longer want to be on camera. It's always the same manipulative cycle. You don't have to film, but then you won't get to go on these trips, or you won't get to enjoy the lifestyle this channel provides. It's gross. It's manipulation, plain and simple. Even Sherry Frankie talked about this. She said that family trips were looked at as rewards and incentives for basically performing for the camera. Kay loves to act like she's a perfect mother online, and she loves to take credit for her oldest not being in the content, basically saying her and Tay are respecting her boundaries, but we know it's not even the reason. But hey, even if you took her word for it, that they just respect her boundaries and not that it's like a court-ordered thing, wouldn't common sense tell you that if your child, once they hit middle school is telling you, hey, I don't want to be filmed, I don't like that, I want privacy, isn't there a pretty good chance that your children who you are doing that to right now are going to possibly want the same thing when they're older, when they can fully understand what's going on and give informed consent? But by that point, it's going to be way too late because they've already monetized their child's entire existence, basically taking advantage of them because a toddler and a young child doesn't understand what's going on online. They just see, oh, mom's wants me to, take a picture. I want to take a picture. Mom's giving me attention. Dad's giving me attention. I want attention from my parents. They don't really know all the dark stuff that's going on, or they can't, think what they're going to want as an adult. And if they're going to want online privacy, it's going to be all taken away from them. It's already taken away from them. But I also have to mention, and yes, again, guys, I have to say allegedly here, but allegedly, Kay has set things up so that all the money she makes goes into Tay's name or maybe an LLC, which would mean that she doesn't technically have to pay the full child support she otherwise would if all her social media earnings were counted. I read that she pays as little as $150 a month, which, if that's true, that's absolutely insane. They have a $1 million+ home, and she's paying $150 a month in child support, allegedly. And again, it's crazy because her dad, this daughter's dad, is the primary caretaker, and we don't know anything about him. He doesn't do social media. His personal life is completely private. But what we do know is that the daughter chooses to spend her time with him, even though Kay and Tay could probably provide that influencer, trips and anything she wants lifestyle. She still is choosing to spend the majority of her time with her dad, who's offline. It's very, very telling. But my point to all of that is that this dad is basically footing the bill for the majority of his and Kay's daughter's life. And at $150 a month, that's a total joke. That's not going to cover anything, basically. And it's really frustrating because Kay could provide so much more for her daughter, and for whatever reason, whether it's her choice or Tay's influence, which would not shock me in the least, they're actively limiting that to make sure that that doesn't happen. It's gross. And not exactly something that a perfect parent would do, in my opinion at least. But honestly, a perfect parent also wouldn't move 11 hours away from their then toddler. So yeah, there's that. Something that I want to bring up in this video, and it's honestly something that I think should be a much bigger conversation, especially after everything that's happened this past year, and that is pool safety. We all know unfortunately the horrible, tragic loss of another influencer's child this past spring, and I'm not going to go into that situation on my channel specifically, but what I will say is that any influencer who continues to show off their pool in their content without proper safety measures is irresponsible, and they deserve to be called out every single time that they post a video of that pool. And that's exactly what Kay and Tay are doing. Their pool appears in a ton of their videos because of where it's located, and there's, from what I can see at least, no pool fence or safety covers visible. Nothing. It's not just careless, it's dangerous, and it's an accident waiting to happen. And what makes it even worse is they're influencers. Like it or not, people do look up to them. No matter how controversial or problematic that they might be, there's always going to be those crazy fans who continue to ignore all of that and look up to them anyway, basically idolizing them. So when Kay and Tay are showing a pool with zero safety measures put in place, they're basically sending out a message to their fans being like, it's totally fine to do the same thing. There's nothing wrong with it. All it would take is for their daughter to open a door with no one watching them, for them to basically turn into another heartbreaking headline. I mean, are aesthetics really more important than your child's safety, than their life? Like, wake up. Honestly, that's one of the main reasons I would never want a pool. I mean, if I had one, every single safety measure would be put in place and then some. I'd be going overboard with it, which I don't think you can actually do with a pool. You can never have too much safety measures put in place. Either way, even with all those safety measures, with how my brain works, it still would not be enough. I would be up all night worrying about it, checking things, checking cameras. Like it would make me go crazy. The stress and anxiety that a pool would cause me, it would basically cancel out any peace or fun that a pool could also bring. So that Kay and Tay seem to sleep perfectly fine at night with zero safety measures put in place, it's honestly very, very telling to the type of people and parents that they are. Again, maybe they do have some, but from what I can tell from the videos, I'm not seeing anything, and there should be offense on there. Something that Kay and Tay really seem to dislike, probably because they can't control it, is any page that talks about them, whether it's positive or negative, even fan pages. They hate it. On their own accounts, they can basically monitor everything. They can delete comments, block certain words, and curate the image that they want to present. But on these other pages, they lose that control. And they definitely don't want people continuing to bring up their past or even calling them out for what they're still doing, like monetizing their kids, which everybody knows is wrong. Not everyone, but we're getting there. Basically, Kay and Tay like to label anything that's not pure praise as defamation. I saw this comment, and I believe that it's Tay responding to a comment on their official page, and he's talking about basically people who troll him or people who leave rude comments, and he says, "That's what is so beautiful about Facebook. These same trolls publicly have their job, their full name, their location, etc. available for me to quickly find exactly who they are. And all it takes is a few screenshots and I can legally submit a defamation cause to the courts, which I can do for a couple $100, which they then have to fight it. And it will cost them $5,000 to $7,000 to fight it. Win or lose, I win because they spend $5,000 to $7,000 fighting my claims of disinformation and defamation." The thing is, influencers in general, they get tons of comments made about them every single day. Even influencers who are not at all problematic, they have a completely squeaky clean reputation. They don't monetize their kids. We don't even know what their kids look like. And even they get unnecessarily cruel comments made about them. It just comes with the territory. I'm not saying it's right, but it is the reality. I mean, even me, I'm not an influencer. I'm just a very tiny commentary channel in a sea of thousands and thousands of other YouTube channels. Even I get some pretty nasty things said about me in my comment section. It happens. That's life. That's putting yourself out there online. Not saying I agree with it, but it's not going to be stopping. But with Kay and Tay, when you choose to monetize your children in today's world like they do, when there's so much awareness about how harmful that can be, you can't act shocked when people criticize you or question your parenting. And the same goes for building your entire brand around having a perfect relationship when there's a documented DV charge involved. People bringing that up, it's not defamation, it's literally public record. But it's also kind of funny because these are the same people who will go on and on about how much the hate doesn't bother them, all while meticulously patrolling the comment sections wherever their names are mentioned. Like, don't you have an infant and a toddler you should be taking care of? Especially considering there's no pool fence and millions of people who have created parasocial relationships with your children. If I were in Tay's shoes, I'd be way more focused on my children's safety than worrying about what random people online have to say about me. But Hey, that's just me. One thing about the whole parasocial relationships that I feel like we never really hear about is how their fans, and not just Kay and Tay, any of these family vloggers, how their fans interact with them out in public, especially with their kids. I've heard some influencers, I think Abby Herbert was one, who I would love to do a video on because they have addressed the harmful ways of the internet and they took their children off of the internet because they wanted to give them the privacy and the digital safety. And then when their views tanked, they put their kids back on. So I'd love to do a video on them. Nobody talks about them. Why? But she did mention, which kudos for her on this one, I guess, credit where credit is due, but she did mention that when she's out and about, sometimes people will ask to take pictures with her kids, and she says no, but they're more than welcome to take a picture with her. And this, I think, is a really common experience. Fans who have formed parasocial relationships with these family vloggers often act like these influencers and their children are basically a part of their life, of their family, of their friend group. And I have no doubt that some of these family vloggers have some very scary interactions, some scary stories that they could tell us about how their fans interacted with their kids. But that's a side of influencing that they're never going to talk about. And honestly, people like Kay and Tay, they just feed those parasocial relationships by calling their followers their friends. It's very bizarre. And something I know, I know it. I know what's going to happen is that once I post this video, I'm going to have some crazy Kay and Tay stands, Kay and Tay stands, just rushing to defend them. They'll just say that I'm jealous and that Kay and Tay are just this wholesome family vlogger couple that I just need to leave them alone, as if it's a supposed threat. And side note, if you are one of those rabid, crazy psycho fans, kudos for making it this far in the video. And here's my challenge for you. Before you go and say that I'm jealous or that they're wholesome or this or that, explain to me how Kay and Tay or how any family vlogger who monetizes their children, how these parents who monetize their children, how that's a good thing, how it's beneficial. I know it's a tough one, but give me your best shot. But if you've been on my channel for a while with these videos, especially, I like to take clips from other creators or even experts on this topic, basically to help reinforce what I'm talking about. And I came across this clip from Mom Uncharted that really puts it perfectly. Because as you'll see, she says that there's no such thing as wholesome family vlogging. So let's take a look at that because it basically sums up my thoughts exactly.
I don't know the family you're referring to, but I want to make it clear that there is no genuinely wholesome family vlogging content. Cambridge Dictionary defines wholesome as good for you and likely to improve your life, either physically, morally, or emotionally. Family vlogging at its core is exploitative. You cannot take away a child's right to privacy and informed consent and digital safety and call it wholesome. It is not wholesome for parents to profit off of the labor or actual existence of their children. It is not wholesome that these children have no protection under the law for their privacy or their labor or the income they are generating for their family. It's not wholesome for parents to allow strangers to develop parasocial relationships with their children. It's not wholesome for parents to narrate the story of their children's life without their knowledge or consent, leaving them with a lengthy digital footprint that will follow them for the rest of their lives. And it's definitely not wholesome where some of these images and videos end up.
Definitely go check her out. I'm going to link her TikTok account below. If you don't know who she is, you probably already do. But if you don't, she's a really great resource. One of you guys actually suggested that I put resources in my description to creators or different studies about this topic to basically help you dig deeper to learn more, and possibly even if you're having a conversation with someone who disagrees with you and who thinks that this is okay, that these resources can maybe be a way for you to open up some dialogue. And Mom Uncharted is perfect for that. She covers all these issues in a really thoughtful, well-informed way. Anyway, though, I'm sure that I missed a lot with Kay and Tay. Drop whatever I missed in the comments below. For now, I just kind of wanted to give an overview of them and sort of try to highlight some of the main issues that people have with them. Because honestly, if they were just a regular couples account, I don't think many people would care. They also wouldn't likely have the success that they do today if their kids were not a part of the content. And I know that if they were just a couple's account not monetizing their kids, I wouldn't even be talking about them today. But that's not the case because they do monetize their children. In a world where we know the risk, there's plenty of evidence to back it up, and yet they continue to do it while presenting themselves as these perfect parents. And not only that, but a perfect couple. And the proof out there about them is very contradicting. And it's not just defamation as Tay would want us to believe. It's actual verifiable facts that we're talking about. I like to say this a lot when covering family vloggers, but if parents alone are not enough to make the content work to the point where they feel the need to put their kids to work, maybe they should reconsider their profession. Anyway, let me know your thoughts below. Let me know if I missed anything. I'm sure I did. I'm still getting the hang of making these super in-depth videos, so just bear with me on that. And if you did make it this far, please consider giving it a thumbs up, maybe even some hype points. Don't really know what it means, but I know it is helpful for me if you guys hype my videos. So consider it, consider subscribing. As always, thank you so much for being here. I know I've been gone for a little while, but I'm back. Let's finish the year strong, you guys. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.